All right, all right. Aloha Friday, everybody. Thank you for being with us today as I host my friend Lisa all the way from the West Coast. Early morning for her. But hey, she's fresh from an Italian trip. So we're going to have some fun talking about transformation, talking about the things that will allow us to go from one point to the other in the stages of our life. And Lisa, it's so nice to host you today, have you with me talking about this specific topic. But before we get into the conversation, tell us a little bit about you and what you're up to.
Well, I'm here in California, closer to Hawaii than you are.
Yes, you are.
And I am a life coach, a certified life coach, and I really do love working with women. It's a passion. I graduated, I almost said that. I retired in December of 2022 after starting to do life coaching in 2019. And that was after 41 years in telecom sales. So that's a long career. But my passion is helping women transition to different period in their life, to a different life that they love. And I take women from stuck and scared and lost to confident, powerful, and reawakened. And it's by transitioning my clients to a life that they really were meant to live, and both professionally and personally. So I am very passionate about helping other women. I want them to shine. I want to help them shine.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we say share similar. I'm not as specific to a particular group, but we at times find ourselves in the dull of life, right? There's some moments in life that is just plain dull, and then we start asking these important questions, right? Some of them sound like, "Why am I here?
Who am I?
Who am I? What's my purpose?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this anyway?" And so, those types of questions, they come up every so often in people's lives, and it's okay. I want the listener to understand that these questions are very important to find an answer to. It would be a shame for you to come live this life, pass away, and never ever know that you were in any particular direction at any given time. So, if those questions come up, it's perfectly normal to have these moments in life where you question those things. But folks like Lisa and myself are here to help you find your way through, not because we are the ultimate experts at this thing, right? Because we are also living. We were just talking about a post I had shared on LinkedIn. And if you haven't seen that, you're welcome to. Um, but there's a period in my life where I felt, Lisa, to crawl up in a cave and just let it go by.
Yeah.
So,
And especially with women, I mean, women are really geared in society to take care of others, to make sure that others are always taken care of instead of themselves. So they can go through a long period in their life not thinking about what they want. What would they love to do, either even in a volunteer stage or in their work? Because when you love what you do, you just never want to stop doing it, right? And so there is stages in a woman's life in particular where, empty nester, retirement, divorce, things that happen in their lives where they're now themselves and they're sitting with themselves and they may not know who they are, and they really need to explore that. And they've never had the permission, in sense, to explore themselves. So that's really important to take the time to do that. Really, it's important to take the time to do that every day, as many days a week as you can, even when you're on that treadmill, even when you're on that hamster wheel. Take time out every day to spend time with yourself and understand what you want and what you need.
well, I love, Lisa, you bring up the word permission,
Mhm.
right? It is one of those things that you are either getting or you're giving yourself. And a lot of times we don't give it to ourselves, right?
Right.
And not often people give it. So when do we get it? When do we get permission to do those things that will help us explore more of ourselves? Because, hey, the person I am today is not the person I was even yesterday, you know? And so I have to understand those little nuances of my life in order to say, hey, maybe yesterday wasn't okay to even explore that, but maybe today is, you know? And so I love that you bring up permission. Now, for everybody that's listening, and I hope the floodgates of the women come into this and this session, because it really is going to be helpful in one way or another, whether you're catching it live or you're catching it replay. Please join us. Make sure to comment at will. And if there are any questions, we'll answer those as we can, if not live, obviously in replay. But Lisa, you're involved in and have gotten certified in quite a few things. This transformational journey for us could be daunting sometimes, could be scary. It could be, wow, am I really doing this, right? For some people. Um, how did you get into this work? And how are your those that come to you, how are they coming right off the bat? You know, what are the feelings they are feeling when they come to you?
So it's interesting because most of us as life coaches take our own personal experiences and then take that and understand, okay, I want to help others to go through the same experience I went through with help and with a cheerleader and with someone who keeps us accountable. So in my case, it really started back in 2003, where I sat up in my bed when I was married at the time and completely lost who I was. I had no idea who I was. I had lost friends. I had lost interest. I had lost any passions that I had in my life. And I actually told my husband at the time, I am going to explore and go through this period where I'm going to find out who I am again. And I do not know if you're going to be with me. I mean, he understood. We went through a lot of therapy for about 4 years. And at the end of that, I did realize that it was best for me not to be with him. He was a good man. It just wasn't the right person for me to be with. And so from there started my own transformation journey. Lots of therapy, a lot of understanding myself and thinking about what I needed. It's been a long time coming. It took to the point where I took 6 months off. I took a sabbatical from the very stressful job of telecom, high profile sales for 6 months in 2018, at the end of 2018 into 2019. And that's when I found out about life coaching. I had no idea what it was. And so I found out, I interviewed some women, one of them being a life coach, and she told me how she got certified. I went through the program, got some clients. I had to go back to work because I wasn't the magic age of 59 and a half to be able to retire. And so I did. I had a couple clients while I was working, but then COVID happened. And in my line of work, that meant 11, 12-hour days helping businesses transition because of COVID into where their platforms and how they were working as business, large businesses. And then got to the point finally in December of 2022. And when I realized I was going to be able to devote 100%, I remembered back when I wrote a blog when my mom was going through a very long cancer journey and how much just writing about it helped other women. So I said, okay, I'm going to take this life coaching and I'm going to take it to another level, and I'm going to help other women go through the transitions of life like I'm doing at that moment, which was retirement. It takes, you go through retirement, you have to find who you are again. You lose an identity, you have to mourn that. And so in 2023, I started with new name with my business, Ladies Who Leap, and then started coaching again. I went through a tough time in 2023 because I got diagnosed with breast cancer. So I did keep, though, everything I had learned in my journey about staying positive, about learning the being profile. Everything that I had learned through that journey helped me to overcome the health issue, overcome a breakup of someone I'd been with for 12 years. It just really, everything that I had learned. And so I use all of that, my own experience, and then all of the modalities that I have learned and are still learning to help others to overcome things. And I'm basically their cheerleader. I am there to keep them accountable and to cheer them on. And that's important. You need someone in your corner.
Absolutely. And during you said transition, there's a lot of transition in life.
Mhm.
right? Workforce transition, career transition, relationship transition. Uh, yeah, one day to another transition, right? Sometimes I'm like, it's Friday. What happened to the week? But so much of that is going on. I think we've normalized what it is and haven't really taken the time to explore the needs that are necessary during these transitions, and sometimes we gloss over for the sake of just, let's keep this going, let's just keep it going, let's keep it going, and we gloss over the attention needed for these times. And so you mentioned cheerleader, and a lot of us, I'll throw myself in there. Will come up on moments that we need that. We need someone to encourage, someone to give advice, someone to say, "Hey, look, I don't have much to say except I'll be here. If you need me, I'm going to be right here." And those transition moments, for some, are great, and for others, not so great. Being from the military background, one of the more major transition periods that we experience from the military is that one that goes from military to civilian. We've forgotten what it is to be able to ask a question without no repercussion. Right. And so those transition periods are very challenging at times. And I see my dear cousin come in. Thank you, Jackie, for joining us. And I'm going to put her comment up, pretty lengthy, but she says, absolutely agree that these transition and challenges that we face are the ones that give us credibility to help others, right? Um, and she went through a major transition, being a scholar, right? She's a principal, led the education system up in New York, and then boom, you got to retire, right? So, which is similar to what you was talking about, right, Lisa? And during these moments where we have those pivotal shifts, um, what has been the the most that you've heard people express? Right? Is it fear? Is it what is it the most that they express?
Yeah, they lose their identity in some way. So when I was working, and I kind of equate it to that dog on the racetrack, and it's constantly trying to chase that rabbit, right? And the rabbit's constantly out of reach. It's your identity that you lose in a lot of ways. And you end up right when you stop and you make that transition, you're in that period, you don't know who you are. You are completely lost. And there are things that you need to do. I mean, steps that I work with my clients in doing, which is partly, what are your values in life? Because values help you make the decisions and know where you want to live your life, who you want to be with, how you want to spend your time. And so that's one of the first exercises I put them through, is really to look at their values and also allow them to dream. I mean, let's have a conversation. I'm going to ask those open-ended questions about what your life would be like from wake up to go to bed in the evening, and just open your mind up and dream. Again, permission comes in mind. We've not spent the time to do that. So sitting with a life coach and having them ask those questions and putting them through these exercises really helps them think about themselves and gives them the worthiness. I am worthy of thinking about what I want to do in life, because I've never really stopped to do that, because life was happening. It was just happening for me. It wasn't happening for me, it was happening to me. And now you want to stop and have life happen for you.
Yeah, absolutely. One of those things that we can, and we both practitioners of the being profile, right? So I'll bring just a small element of that into this. Um, as we're exploring this new us, right? Because it really is, right? For a long time, I was senior chief Acosta, and that brought a slew of, I would say, favor. When you would walk in a room, things fell in order, right? Things like that. Now I'm coming out to this new world. 90, we say 90%, 99% of the rest of the world, and I'm this 1% represented individual. Um, but when we're going through those exploration moments in our life, one of the reasons both you and I got involved with the being profiles because it actually digs deep into the reason why we are being in a particular thing with a subject, aspect, right? As we refer to it. Um, what attracted you to that particular tool for your practice, and how are you using it?
Yeah. So first of all, I'd like to thank you for your service. My nephew actually is in the Marines right now, serving in Port Lejeune. So thank you. I appreciate that. And second, so at some point when I first started doing life coaching, and I think it would be more in the 2019 period, I was asking the universe, what is it that you can help me with? I need something to help me identify specifically what is areas for transformation for my clients. And I just I asked the universe. And within a couple of days on LinkedIn, I received a message, and it wasn't like those usual high salesy kind of messages. It was very subtle, and it told me a little bit about the being profile. So I said, well, this is something I think it's meant for me and I want to explore it. I talked to, as you know, Lucy Faulkner, and I said, I would like to experience it first before I use it with any of my clients. So I did. And it was so, it was eye opening, but it really solidified inside me something that I had not been able to put into words about areas in myself, of how aspects of being within myself that I needed to transform and work on. And it was so powerful that I knew instantly, once this was done, I have to use this with my clients. I'll tell you, it's a really great tool for life coaches because it's kind of like an x-ray inside their brain, and it tells you really a lot about the person. The person may be confronted a little bit because there are things that we may experience or be about, or in our aspects of being with other people, the world, and within ourselves, that we don't want to confront. We may have known about it, but now it was being put in front of us and put into words, so we have no choice in a way to confront it. And it just raises your sense of awareness so high that it is, because awareness is needed in order to transform. It just raises it so high that things come out, and then it makes it, I think, a lot easier to pinpoint what work you need to do in order to transform yourself so that you'll have a more fulfilling life and you'll be more effective, both in person, with relationships, with teams that you work with, everything is in your life.
Yes, and I agree. I took that same approach that you did. Actually, I said, "Hey, let me try it," and then before I'm telling people about this or that or the other, and I was just blown away about the depthness of how it accurately described a relationship. And the funny thing is that this is not, you put in something and it says this is who you are. No, it gives you what it is, and you identify whether you are in a healthy or unhealthy relationship with that, aspect of being. And so if anybody is curious about that, I have put the Genesis website in the comments. Feel free to go there. It is called the Being Profile.
I forget, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I do use it with every client that takes my longer one-on-one program, because I feel that it's very important to do. I will do the offshoot, just one with the 2-hour debrief, and remembering that those of us as practitioners are really trained to ask the open-ended and right questions and do the debrief after you take the assessment in a way that is very comfortable and safe, and works in a way that makes you more aware, makes things happen and things come out. So I just wanted to say that also. Sorry.
Yeah, no, a great point, because I also follow that. If I have a coaching client that is months, months contract type, then yes, I use this immediately. That's the first thing we do, and we're also obviously available for the one-off You take the profile, we do a debrief, and then you can go on from there. But it's preferred to have a long term conversation around these aspects. But Curtis, thank you, brother, for joining me. He put something up here I would like to address because it is one of those things. Is that I love today's topic. I see one obstacle to recognizing the need of a life coach is acceptance of the need and finding someone you can trust with your intimate feelings. And he's correct. You know, we talk about your life, right? This is the prized possession that you have. You don't want to put it in the hands of someone that will not meet the need initially, and can take you where you need to be. And so, you know, exploration of providers, unfortunately, is one of those things. But if you have any questions, you could look into people's background, look in testimonials, look at Better Business Bureau, you know, do your homework before you get into this relationship of coach and client. But it is one of those things that people do question. What would you say about that?
Well, that's why I think most of us, at least I do, and I think most of us offer a discovery call or, one call before you start working. And that really, I think, helps you to understand. And remember, as life coaches, we're interviewing potential clients as much as they are interviewing us. Is this going to be a good fit? Is this someone that I believe would work successfully with my methods of helping others? So it's a two-way street, and it's really nice to have that initial conversation. And I think that's really helpful, because the feeling that you get, the relationship that you feel when you're speaking to someone, either in person, if someone's doing a speaking engagement, you talk to them afterwards, or that one-on-one Zoom, phone call, anything, is super important. It really is important. There's a lot that can be said and can be felt within that first 30 or 60 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I have said no to a lot of those calls, post, because I felt that number one, the person did not or wasn't clear on what they wanted, and end up finding out that all they wanted was advice versus coaching. You know, so different things, right? Do you want mentorship, advice, coaching? And we kind of clear those things out in those calls and can guide them to something else where they can go. And for those that remain after the call, then you're going through the coaching process. But thanks, Curtis, for making that statement very true. Now, let's talk about transformation. Transformation, a big thing for us to consider. Let's say you get past that anxiety of, oh my goodness, here we go, right? Transformation, I spoke about not too long ago on a podcast with Ashcan from Genesis. And we took the example of the butterfly, very simple to kind of gravitate, or very easy to try to gravitate to the butterfly, because that's usually the one we see a visual transformation. Matter of fact, I was in my garden getting rid of some caterpillars because they eat my plants. But but Peter, don't hurt me. As I was reflecting on that process for butterflies, right? I started to think of transformation. I said, well, if transformation was done when the butterfly, got out of the cocoon and just started to fly, there would be trouble for the world, because the reason why gardens and fruits and all this grows, because those butterflies, they go to one, they pollinate, they go around. Bees do it too, but butterflies. So if transformation stopped at becoming a butterfly, we'd be in a world of hurt. So I started to liken that to us. Now, transformation. Could you tell me what you believe transformation is, and then what has been the greatest need for transformation with your clients?
So I believe transformation is becoming more fully aware of who you are and what you are as a human being. And when you understand that and you get through the issue of fear to be able to take the first step to make that step to transformation, when you get to the point where you are comfortable, there's so much comfort in knowing that you're living the life that you were supposed to live, because we're all unique. We all have special gifts to share. And when you get to that point of transformation, you understand yourself so fully that you know what decisions, what behaviors, everything that you need to do that's in line with yourself and what your true calling is, or your true purpose or passion, or who you are as a human being and how you make decisions in life. Then there's comfort in knowing that you are living the right life that you were led to live. And I actually forgot your second question.
No, that's quite all right. You know, in transformation, what has been the if a client comes to you and say, hey, I'm looking for transformation, what are they normally looking for? What are they focusing on?
They're really focusing on themselves for the first time, right? Again, looking at what they want to do. And there are some of them that have already kind of figured out what their purpose or passion is, at least what they think it is. So part of what we work on is making sure that where they're going is really what their own idea of success is, right? Because a lot of goals have to do with becoming successful, finding yourself a new business that you could work at, what you want to do for a living. So what I want to make them understand is, first of all, is the direction they're going in the right direction for them, and then helping them set goals and steps that are smaller that they can take each day so that they don't run into that fear or the funk that stops them cold. I mean, a lot of the aspects of being in the being profile are about not really being authentic, or having so much fear that you're just frozen and you can't progress. So overcoming those things and also understanding where you want to go is the right steps for you. And then once they start on that journey, I'm telling you, talk about a butterfly. I mean, I had a current client right now that she's like a different person than when we first started. And every time I normally ask 1 to 10, how do you feel today, right? 1 being terrible and 10 being perfect. I got a 9 the last time we met after 2 months of working with her. So it makes me so happy. It really energizes me. Doesn't drain me. Some people ask, does it drain you, when you meet with clients? No, it energizes me. I'm so happy that I'm able to make a difference in their life. And that's transformation.
And you mentioned fear, which is typically the first thing that we're, buck up against. If I'm having that challenge of fear, what would you suggest before I go into this journey?
Well, I have a quote that I made. I hope I'm saying it right too. It's my own quote. But confidence is knowing that nothing you do will ruin everything, but doing nothing will ruin your confidence. So fear is what stops you sometimes from doing anything, because you think you're going to ruin everything. If I do that, people are going to look at me badly. If I make a mistake, I'm going to be considered someone that is not successful. There's so many things. That's a big part of fear, right? It's something that's happened either in your past or you've seen happen, and you're fearful it's going to happen again. So it stops you from progressing or taking a step or moving forward. So I have them look at what it is that they're fearful of, and then changing their mindset about it. If they change, let's say, so what would happen if you took that step and you tried something and they tell me, oh, well, something's going to happen. Well, truly, is that really what's going to happen? Or are you looking at it in a way from a lens that is your own perceptions of it? Let's look at what really would happen. Nothing big would happen. And having them realize that gets them through the step where they're paralyzed at just getting challenges, at least gets them to the step where they're okay with failures, because you learn from your failures. It's always lessons. And then gets them to the step where they're successful. So it's a step, one step at a time, and changing how they think and how they look at something so that they can then realize, well, no, nothing bad is going to happen and I can't ruin everything. So I need to take that step and see what happens and learn when I have a failure, because we will, And you need to have failures in order to have success, and help them understand and realize that.
Absolutely. You reminded me of a question a friend of mine asked me. He says, Enrique, if I asked you to come up with $1 million tomorrow, would you do it? I said, brother, I can't even come up with $100. No, $1 million. No, tomorrow. I no. He said, what about if your family members' life depended on it? I said, I come up with $1 million. So there's a lot of times where transformation is scary. It is, because it's unknown. We've never seen it before, right? A caterpillar is going to say, a butterfly, are you crazy? No. But that transformation lives inside of us. All of our capacity is fully there. It's inside somewhere. And I love how you bring it. Okay, so let's look at what that really would look like. And as you go through, you realize that, hey, this is possible. As you look through these and using the being profile, you look at these aspects, right? And how you relate to them. Because funny thing is that we talk about fear in that session, in those sessions, and it clearly tells you that fear, courage, or courage and fear is one of those, they fight against each other, and depending on how you want to relate to it. But courage is not the absence of fear, right? And it specifically states that, and I love how they do that. But it's how you are having a relationship with it, right? And thank you for that. And for those of you that are listening, viewing, and you're in a transition period in your life, fear seems to be having the upper hand in most cases. You can always send us a message. We can explore that further, Lisa and I, or either one, because we really want you to understand that fear is okay to be there. Right?
There's a purpose for it. There is a purpose for it in life.
Exactly. Right. And exploring what that purpose is will give you this courage to say, okay, I see you. I understand you're there. But step aside, because I got to get something done. So let's say I did take that acknowledgement. I understand what fear is. I understand the role it's playing. I understand that it doesn't have to cripple me. It doesn't have to bind me. I can do some things that will allow me to recognize it, but move forward. Now we're on this journey. Now, hey, we're exploring. They start thinking, yeah, let's see what's possible. What are the challenges, because we still will face them, that people face in your practice, that kind of wants to push them back, right? And there's an apprehension there, but walk us through that. If somebody was to come up and say, okay, well, we got past the fear thing, let's go for this, and now they kind of like, wavering.
So before we even make a steps as to what direction and what they need to do to get in that direction, like the exploration of what they want to do. Is it something that's even feasible for them? Do they have to have any certifications or go back to school? I mean, all those explorations. What would a business entail? There is money aspect to all of this. Do they do it part-time while they're working full-time? Do they wait until they're retired? Are they retired? Do they have retirement money? Do they need to just get a part-time job while they explore this? So money is definitely a factor. Then you have to look at how this person looks at money, because sometimes they think money is a big issue, and it actually isn't, right? In our childhood, in our families, by our parents, grandparents, people put ideas of what money means to you. And it could be that you actually do have the means to do it, but you're afraid of the money aspect, or it could be practically, in practical terms, you do have to take steps, smaller steps while you're working in order to get to a point where you can, be financially stable, because that's a lot to think about, right? Money is a big deal and is something that from my work with people is more of on a practical basis. Let's talk about it. Let's see what you have and what you can do to move in a good direction and still be financially stable. A lot of women, we are single and we have to stand up on our own. So it's wonderful if you have a partner that can support you. So this is all the discussions we have to have around the money aspect, because that does come up quite a bit in the beginning once you're really going to start taking that step.
Yeah, and it's something to consider, right? Well, we do operate in the world that is a thing, and so it begs to start calculating of that cost, but also to understand that, like yesterday, bought a burger, bought this from. I was with my boys. It was $60. I'm like, what? $60? What kind of cow was that? Because I'm paying for Wagyu and I'm just getting
was that right? Wagyu beef?
Like, what? And so when I started to think about that, I said, man, where could have I put that $60 to better use? I mean, we could have rolled home and got this thing done.
Barbecue out,
right,
yeah.
right. It's just so a lot of times we do have the means to do so. The relationship with money is very important. And I love that you bring upbringings, because there's a lot of I was in a house that we never spoke about money. We were not educated about money. We just knew things would show up, right? And so when I got to be an adult, I had no idea. Money was coming in, money was going out, and then you'll find out quick that that's a bad relationship. So transformation, you're on the journey. You've gone past the fear. You can say yes. Let's do this. I can afford this journey now. And there's a lot to dig out. Right? There's a lot to dig out. A lot of times it's a mountain full of things. Where do you start?
Well, I really ask those questions. I let the client decide. In essence, I ask them the questions, open them up as to what would want to be, what they feel comfortable as the first step, because the first step is what leads to everything else. I'm also trained on neuro-linguistic programming. So if I identify they have trouble making a decision, there are certain things that are keeping them stuck. I am, by the time, if you're listening to this after July of 2024, I will have already been trained also in hypnosis and mental emotional release, which is releasing baggage that you've carried from certain types of trauma as a child. So I have a lot of tools, and I identify those by asking the open-ended questions, my own intuition, and understanding what it is that they need to make sure they continue progressing and continue growing, because growth is not easy. It can be uncomfortable. So I'm there, again, we talk about cheerleader. I'm there to support them, give them a nice, safe space to talk about what is happening and when they hit those obstacles, and then to cheer them on and to clap and to congratulatory and when they actually reach the next step or they reach any of their goals. So it's a progressive process, and I have a lot of tools in my toolkit to be able to get them to the next step if there's anything that's keeping them stuck.
Wonderful. Yeah, and stuck is the thing, right? We often will we only know what we do. And when you get stuck, you either got to get more educated or get someone to help you, right? Because it's easier to get pulled up than to try to dig out yourself. And if you don't have the capacity at the time or the education to get you to the next level, someone else is required. And I hope that you listening or viewing are considering that external help, because it does make things easier as you go along, right? To have somebody to bounce your thoughts from, your feelings, and you go back and forth, and you're able to do that. Now, let's talk a little bit about the podcast, because you have your own podcast. Explain to me exactly what the leap thing is, right? Yeah, it's I love the title, and I love how you have your logo on there. But where did that come from?
So a lot of women get stuck in when they want to leap, and leap can mean anything from leaping to learning more about yourself to leaping, taking a leap of faith in yourself or leaping into a new life when you retire. Um, I I feel that when you leap, it can be uncomfortable. What do they say? Taking a leap is where they say where the magic happens. I say where the growth happens. So being comfortable and taking a leap is where the growth happens, because you're always going to feel uncomfortable as you grow. So that's why I have a little circle with the woman leaping out. There's butterflies we talked about earlier.
Mhm.
So that's where you're going to transform to. And so you're leaping out of that comfort zone, right? Leaping out of your comfort zone is where the growth happens, is what I say. So on my podcast, I am including women and some men too, who have leapt out of their comfort zone, have made transitions in their life, either once or twice or three or four times, and have gotten the courage to be able to do it, and how their life transformed. Because I do understand that stories are how your subconscious mind stores information. And so the stories of these people on my podcast, if even one or two people hear what their story is about and they feel inspired and they feel more comfortable about taking that leap, that's what's important to me. In fact, at the end of every show, I always ask for the guest's favorite quote, mantra, or positive affirmation, because if that is something that they have lived by, it obviously has an impact on people. And I want someone else to hear it and see if that definitely will have an impact on them. So it's all about storytelling and learning from those stories and feeling comfortable. Oh, somebody else had the same problem and they had the courage and they got through it and they transformed their life and they're happy and more fulfilled about it. It's the storytelling, really
Yeah,
important.
it's and storytelling so is so powerful. Today, I was looking at one of my other friends speaking about the what you get as a learner from storytelling, and he had made a comment of that it goes up 500 times when you're listening and you're just engrossed in the story, and you're learning, and you're like, oh yeah, because that's how what happened to me. Oh, that's different than mine, and your mind is just going. So I love that you bring storytelling, especially when you talk about transformation. Now, yesterday I was at an event, and you saw the picture. As it was from that event, and I had an opportunity, because since I was the MC, I was looking at the time, and I said, "Oh, we got 10 minutes, so I could share this." And so I decided to share my story around PTSD, and the difference between my type versus the combat type, right? Because there are differences, but the impact may be the same, because it's in my story, I was telling them how I was physically frozen. I literally could not move my hand to open a door to a place I worked at, and it was first time that ever happened to me, but I was floored that this was actually happening to me. And so when I shared that story, and we're talking about storytelling here, um, it resonated across. I never knew that it would go and do that. I was just sharing my, similarity to within the confines of PTSD. And afterwards, obviously, people come to you and they're like, "Oh my goodness, this, and that." When you're transforming those listening and viewing, it's important to share. It's important to share. In this case, I was sharing some bad that happened, and then how I was able to overcome, but uh, sharing either one of those spectrums of your life does wonders, if not for someone listening, for you.
It's vulnerability, right? It's vulnerability. It's being comfortable with your authentic self and sharing your own story. And when you do that, there's so much, the people that are listening to you get so much feeling of trust and safety and understanding that you're sharing something about yourself in order to help them. And that's powerful. That's very powerful.
And so, how are you using storytelling to catapult this transition or this transformation for folks? How are you using that element of transformation?
Well, obviously, on the Ladies Who Leap podcast, my stories are there to help transform others. When I work with clients, if there's any stories, first of all, I want to hear their stories and I want to help them transform their stories into something more positive and understand that when they tell a story of how they're feeling, that might be the bad side of how they're feeling, what techniques and what I use to transform that experience to something that's either released off of them or to something that can be looked at in a different way as positive. And then when I'm speaking, telling stories when you speak, just like you did, is so important. Because again, your subconscious mind learns and makes beliefs and memories from stories. That is the impact. Stories are way more impactful than just sitting there explaining something with bullets and something. You need to tell stories, make someone feel relaxed in front of you. Super important. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I'm gonna I'll reach out to Jackie because you need to have her story on your podcast. So hopefully she'll connect with you. Jackie, please do. Lisa is wonderful. And so, uh, if somebody's listening has viewed this and said, you know what, I'm ready for my transformation, where would you want them to go to if they want to speak with you, your services, or listen to your podcast?
So it's all under Ladies Who Leap. So it's ladieswholeap.com. Ladies Who Leap podcast is on all platforms, Spotify, Apple, all of the platforms. And then I also have a YouTube channel that's Ladies Who Leap. So when you get on my website, there is a button to press so that you can set up a call. We can have that initial 1 hour call so we can figure out if we're good working together. If you want to be on my podcast, set up a call. We can talk about the podcast, what your story is, so I can better understand and I can start working with you on questions and what you need to give me. So really it's my podcast, my website, ladieswholeap.com. That's where you can find everything.
Outstanding. Well, folks, I'm going to encourage you to reach out to this wonderful professional that is doing great things in the transformation field. If you are going through that journey, don't do it by yourself. Typically, you don't get anywhere because you just have ceilings in life, right? And some of these things require external help. So reach out to Lisa. Take a gander at that podcast. The stories on there are amazing, and I hope some of our actually folks that have come on will consider to be on there. Folks, this is the close of Aloha Friday Live as we've been talking about transformation. I hope you've learned from Lisa some of the things that you will require for this journey. And I just want to remind everybody that we are on the hunt for 700 on our podcast, DTLW Podcast. We're about 30 shy of 700. The number is great, but what happens at that time is that I raffle off a authored signed leadership book from one of the guests that have been on my podcast. They have so graciously donated the book, and we get that to one winner that's randomly selected at the time. So please help us get to 700. We would love to have you part of the DTLW podcast. And we're also streaming live on Parade Deck, which is a military-centered, military spouse, first responder-centered streaming platform. They have so graciously added my program to their stream. And so check them out. If you are a military military spouse, or first responder, and you have a show and you would like a hosting platform, give them a check out, paradedeck.com, and see if they're a fit for you. But today, it's all about Lisa, transformation, and I hope that you've all enjoyed this session. Aloha Friday, everybody. Mahalo for being with us, and we'll see each other next week. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you. Aloha.